Salil K. Sen. Dr. Sen has done many things over the course of his career. He's consulted with the Asian Development Bank, UNEP. He has a certificate on sustainability practice global classroom from the Earth Institute at Columbia University, which we work with here at UH. And he has he's studied a lot of work with disaster resilience. He's been a visiting fellow at Tsinghua University and the University of International Business and Economics at Beijing. He's also been a visiting faculty at the University of Redlands in Southern California and the Institut Mantes-la-Commanderie, France.
I wrote up this paper on energy futures point of inflection, the RE, nuclear with health assurance. RE here is renewable energy. Now, I was searching for some relevant literature here because renewable energy and nuclear cannot be put in parentheses so easily. But I could get some close association when they are talking about impact analysis and grid dynamics. We are very used to grid where the inputs may come from different sources. So let's see if we have a possibility, we can parenthesize renewable energy with the nuclear. But the major challenge here is the safety issue. Nuclear somehow is stigmatized with the lack of safety, at least in the minds of population, in the minds of policymakers, in the minds of insurers, and in the minds of financiers. So nuclear is facing a lot of challenge there. But here comes the other side. If we look at the problem from another lens, I'm using the word point of inflection. So we have two pathways. A point of inflection is either beyond that we go ahead or we crumble down. So in order to justify this use of this phrase here, so I saw carbon capture and usage and carbon capture and storage. These technologies enable the continuity of carbon emitting thermal and gas-based energy. So basically, there is a lot of coal, a lot of gas. So what people are doing, countries are doing, already huge assets are in place, huge talents are there, a lot of financing is there. We just can't expect it to close down shop. Aspirationally, it's great, but practically, so people are using a point of inflection there. They have come across with a new technology, carbon capture and usage, carbon capture and storage, so that the emissions at least is controlled, which is the most thermal energy and gas is accused of that particular unwanted outflow. Apply this analogy here. Renewable energy and nuclear, if it could be combined in such a manner that the renewable energy forms as a firewall of safety around the nuclear energy hazards. I have to explain this point. I will do my best to convince this audience here. But before that, I can have a look at what are the three characteristics, paradigm shifts we are looking at. Number one, the transition has to be quick. 2030 is not far away, so decarbonization. Second, rather than treating nuclear as an untouchable, it's such with an inverted comma, so can we make it a convergent with the renewable energy movement? And third is a coherence of policy. Here, if we see at a later slide, I'll come back to the previous slide. The nuclear energy, this is a report from World Bank saying that very clearly depicting the few countries, France, Switzerland, Sweden, Spain, United Kingdom, Netherlands, they were all moving not very aggressively to get nuclear energy here. Some data here to support share of gross power generation really fell from 17.46% in 1996 to 10.15% in 2018. But here we are talking about a point of inflection, and we are talking about that inflection point. We are mired with so many things here. On one hand, that is disaster vulnerability at its best or at its worst. We need safe renewable energy resources which will survive the disaster vulnerability. That is one. But again, looking at the logic from the different lens, we see so-called renewable energy sources. You will all agree, hydropower is very much a renewable energy source. But look at what has happened. Large hydro disasters, Michigan, glacial burst, Tapovan hydro project decimated, turned to debris over a few hours, the Yangtze River topping, and the Three Gorges Dam stressed and strained. So billions of dollars have gone into these so-called renewable safe havens. But did they survive? They did not. So what stops us to move beyond that mental block that nuclear also could be given a chance if we can couple it with renewable energy? So that's my value proposition here in this energy transition conversation. It fits in, it check boxes so many parameters. I'll just quickly go through them. One is health assurance. Health is not only having the vaccination or the medicine or oxygen. Health is really here, the clean air. And the clean air comes from reduced GHG greenhouse gases and even more lethal global warming gases. For it is proven that nuclear, more than twice, it reduces the GHG emissions. And we all know renewables is almost near to zero. So if the two combine together, then there may be synergy. The next point is we need a momentum and we need some convergence. How does it fit in here? From my research on water waste energy ownership, WWE_own equal to we own, is a little play on that word WWE. WWE stands for water waste energy ownership, which is, I define it as the infrastructure, the interrelatedness between the three, that is also pronounced as we. And this we is a proactive entrepreneurial alignment amongst the policymakers, the processors, the fintech, and the AI-informed grassroots up community. So normally it is seen the policymakers are moving this way, the financiers are moving that way, the community is moving that way, hardly any alignment. So if we can align that through WWE_own equals to we own, great things happen. So here, this really justifies my proposition. Also, there is a huge development, pebble bed modular reactor, PBMR, really is very safe. there is no question of a core melt, because whatever is the process, it doesn't have anything which raises very high temperatures, the core melts and the water gets contaminated and so on. Costs are coming down, safety is up, unprecedented level of safety through geological repositories. And also transmutation, nuclear waste or can be converted into plutonium, which doesn't have so much of hazard power. Having said that, let's fit into this transition, point of inflection, good governance, ethics, momentum, and the spirit of we own. Trying to club this all together through this slide here. We need a we own through that will generate a proactive spirit, which is a must for this blend. We need a blended and aligned water waste energy ownership, which is water, waste, and energy are all very much attributable to renewable energy as well as nuclear. There has to be a feel positive leadership. These are soft sides. These are soft sides of the game we are in now for energy transition, given COVID and beyond. We have to retain our growth, and it also spurs self-governance. So having said all this, I'll propose two momentum models. We have seen through the graph, which I showed you very quickly before, nuclear energy and economic growth are correlated. So if those two can be correlated, let's latch on renewable energy with nuclear energy and see what happens to the economic growth. And this, we come to three very key points here, which is build back better. So this is a schematic. It's definitely not very technical, very high tech, just a schematic which shows the renewables side by side. It plugs in energy, it controls, and it gives out a very important electrolysis there, which generates water and oxygen as byproducts, supplies to the grid. This is my final slide, that if we can combine these renewable and nuclear through three steps, excuse me, I have to get back to this point here. We have to retrofit, repurpose, and rejuvenate. Here is the opportunity. We know there are a lot of existing nuclear plants which are reaching end of life. This gives us an opportunity to retrofit them, to repurpose them by adding on renewables, and to rejuvenate them to fit into energy transition in a smooth manner. Thank you.
One big question maybe to get us going here with a little bit of discussion. Dr. Sen mentioned that carbon capture and similar technologies just basically enable continued reliance on fossil fuels. And they don't fix the problem. And then Dr. Fields notes that Africa intends to continue reliance on natural gas, which also extends fossil fuel usage as a less emitter as compared to coal, but still fossil fuels. And nuclear seems like it could be a good carbon-free answer, but of course it's a controversial energy source. It's expensive to develop, it has significant waste issues. For example, in the United States, nuclear has about 85,000 metric tons of waste. And so the question is can new nuclear become an important long-term and structural part, as Dr. Fontanelli mentioned, of the future with its cost and waste, let alone with its questionable standing with the EU member states, as discussed by Dr. Bernadette. So open that up for just some discussion.
I'll be happy to just make a quick point perhaps about the economics of nuclear, especially in Europe, where really have seen the cost going up significantly. The construction costs going up significantly, and actually starting any such project is fundamentally unreliable to governments that invest in it and to private companies as well. I mean, if we see what happened in the UK and in Finland, in the UK, the nuclear power plant, allegedly an advanced generation, has been taking forever, and the subsidy they get is a subsidy that we haven't seen anymore in the last 10, 15 years. That's what solar was getting in the year 2009. It was like 90 quid, 90 pounds per megawatt hour of a feed-in tariff, in addition to other subsidies. So just disregarding waste, disregarding safety, just the economics of it, except for certain countries like China, I just don't see it working out in Europe or the United States.
Thank you. Any other thoughts from the panelists?
I was trying to position it a bit differently, given that, most of the nuclear facilities are aging. So also as a counterpoint, I mentioned that so-called renewable, the hydropower, disaster is causing them to become debris in a day. So though it has, by definition, it doesn't emit anything, we end up with a lot of economic loss, with a lot of debris. It may not be hazardous. So if we can look the two things in the same lens, so we can't undo the construction which is already existing, whether it's in China, in US, Germany, and we need clean energy also. And the disasters are going up. So that's what I was thinking, rather than building something new, we retrofit, we redesign and rejuvenate. I would really like to get some feedback on this.
Well, I also had a question. I was thinking about the EU. Didn't Germany ban nuclear power, or was it just phasing it out? Has that been reversed? What's the current situation there?
There have been aspects through after COVID of safety issue that Professor Salil exposed, and how important it is in terms of renewable energy and nuclear energy to retrofit, repurpose, and rejuvenate. Professor de Fontenelle exposed the crisis and the interconnection of crisis, health, economic, social crisis, and the importance of to face this convergence of crisis to empower the law, that the law should integrate